There's only one miracle in all the Bible that is included in all four Gospels. Do you know which one it is? Which miracle is so important? The teaching of this miracle is so important to be included in all four Gospels. Well, it's actually the feeding of the 20,000. You know about that story, the feeding of the 20,000? I listened to a good part of Steve Farrar's book, Manna, and he pointed out that this miracle is not the feeding of the 5,000. It's the feeding of the 20,000, according to most scholars. That is, the 5,000 were the men that were there. If you count the women and the children, no doubt it would have been about 20,000. And this miracle was so important that it was included in all four Gospels. And so I would encourage you to ask your people, why? Why is this miracle so important as to be repeated 4 times? And I believe this miracle, along with some others, is kind of an acted out miracle. And the big idea of this miracle is, my God shall supply all of your needs. My God shall supply all of your needs. Philippians 4:19. Can you say it with me? My God will supply all of your needs. And Jesus was teaching that through the mechanism of an acted out miracle. Another question you might ask your folks is, what are some other examples of acted out miracles? And I think we looked last week at the story of the calming of the storm. And Jesus was teaching you there's no storm that is so big in your life that Jesus won't sleep through. That is, not that he's not paying attention, but that he's completely relaxed. And it is an acted out parable. And he healed, raised Lazarus from the dead and said, I am the resurrection and the life. And he cursed the fig tree. And he was teaching us about the importance of being fruit-bearing Christians. So here's our passage, Mark 6:30 and following. The apostles gathered around Jesus and reported to him all they had done and taught. So Jesus had sent them out. They've come back. They've preached and they've done miracles and so on. And they're reporting about this. Verse 31. Then, because so many people were coming and going, and they did not even have a chance to eat, he said to them, come with me by yourselves to a quiet place. And I think we talked about last week the idea that there's a place in this world for a little R&R, a place in this world for a little rest and relaxation from time to time. So they went away by themselves in a boat to a solitary place. But many who saw them leaving recognized them and ran on foot from all the towns and gathered around them. And you might ask your people to look for a little map. I'll show you one here. We're not exactly sure where this location was. There's a traditional site and some other sites. But at any rate, I think I read it was like 7 miles around the perimeter of that north side of the Sea of Galilee. You might double check me on that. But at any rate, wouldn't have been a real long walk, but might take a few hours to get around there. Verse 34, when Jesus landed and saw the large crowd, he cried out in a loud voice, why can't I get a break from these people already? Is that what he said? This is what I'll sometimes do in my teaching, is misquote scripture. And of course, you always want to quote it the right way. But it's a way of pointing out what Jesus didn't say. He didn't say, can I get a break already? And the disciples saw those people as trouble. And clearly Jesus was tired. He wanted to get away from the people. And there's nothing wrong with that, as I just said. But at the same time, Jesus saw these people and he was filled with compassion. Here's the real verse. Jesus landed and saw a large crowd. He had compassion on them. We'll come back to that word in a moment. Because they were like sheep without a shepherd. And what did he do to minister to these sheep without a shepherd? He did what you're going to do on Sunday. He began to teach them many things. Because what these sheep without a shepherd need is, they need to straighten out their stinking thinking. And that's what you're there to do, teacher. To straighten out their stinking thinking, because your people are like sheep without a shepherd. And you want to straighten out their stinking thinking. And he began to teach them many things. By this time it was late in the day. One commentator I read said around 6 o'clock in the afternoon. So his disciples came to him. This is a remote, literally this is a desert place, they said. And it's already very late. Send the people away. And you might chat a little bit about this. Do you criticize the disciples for feeling this way? I wouldn't be too hard on them. From one perspective, at least they were caring about the crowd. And secondly, at least they were thinking ahead. And given their mindset of, not expecting a miracle, they're not being unselfish here when they say, send the people away so that they can go to the surrounding countryside and villages and buy something for themselves to eat. But he answered, you give them something to eat. And I believe it's in John's rendition of this story. He says, but he told them this only to test them. Jesus, the master master teacher often made statements like this to test them, to see what they would do. They said to him, that would take more than a half a year's wages. Now, this is an interesting test of translation. Sometimes